What if the power went out and didn't come back for days? It's freezing, your heater is dead, and your phone's useless. Your family huddles under blankets, shivering. Heat isn't a luxury anymore, it's survival. Welcome to Frugal Prepping. Today, I'll show you 12 heating sources that don't need electricity. Practical ways to keep your family and pets warm during blackouts. In 2021, over 200 people in Texas died from the cold during a power outage. Don't let that happen to you. Stay tuned and learn what you need to stockpile now. 1. Propane heaters. Let's talk seriously for a moment. You're sitting in your home, the power's just gone out, the winds are howling, and the thermostat is dropping faster than you thought possible. In that moment, a small, portable propane heater becomes gold. It's one of the most reliable backup heat sources you can get when the grid fails. No electricity required, just fuel and good ventilation. Picture this. You've sealed off one room, shut doors, closed curtains, and you've got the heater running safely in the corner. Outside in the neighborhood, people are shivering, blankets wrapped around them. The furnace is silent because it needs power. But you're warm, quietly confident. That's the difference between freezing out and being prepared. Now, I'm not saying there's zero risk. In fact, the risk is real. According to the United States Fire Administration, portable heaters used in residential buildings caused an average of about 1,100 fires each year between 2017 to 2019, resulting in roughly 65 deaths and 150 injuries. And what's even more sobering, while those heaters were involved in only about 3% of all heating fires, they accounted for 41% of fatal heating fires. What this tells us, yes, propane heaters work, but only if used properly. Improper use, inadequate ventilation, blocked vents, or placing combustible materials too close. Those are the risks. The United States Environmental Protection Agency warns that fuel-burning heaters not properly vented can emit dangerous levels of carbon monoxide, the odorless, invisible killer. So when you pick up a propane heater, you also need a carbon monoxide detector. You need fresh air coming in. You need the exhaust clear. Here's how I use mine, and how you should. I pick a safe spot, near a wall but clear from curtains or furniture. I crack a window just a bit, enough to allow fresh air in and let exhaust gases escape. I have a full propane tank ready, and I rotate my stock so it stays fresh. When the electricity fails and the heater kicks in, I feel warm, not panicked. Meanwhile, others are layering up, trying to stay in motion so the cold doesn't catch them. Imagine being the one whose house stays warm, whose kids can eat dinner without trembling, whose night is peaceful instead of stressful. That's not hype. It's the payoff when you invest in one of these now before the storm hits. 2. Kerosene heaters. Let's walk through this together, because when the grid collapses, old school doesn't mean outdated. It can mean survival. Kerosene heaters may sound a bit relic style, but trust me, they're still among the best non-electric backup heating options you can get. Imagine a brutal winter night, power out, wind howling outside, and you have a device that will throw out strong, radiant warmth for hours on a single tank. That's what a kerosene heater gives you. Here's the upfront deal. You must use the right fuel. Only clear 1K grade kerosene, not cheap blends, not dodgy leftovers. According to Insurance Information Institute, using the wrong fuel or placing the heater too close to flammables leads to fire, explosions, incomplete combustion, and carbon monoxide risk. And ventilation isn't optional. If you use one in a tight, sealed room, you're risking low oxygen and CO buildup. The U.S. Fire Administration warns fuel-burning heaters need fresh air, or you're playing with fire, literally. Let's rewind for a second and picture a scenario. It's the late 1990s during a massive ice storm. Entire towns are without heat, frozen wires, cars stuck in driveways, people wrapped in blankets. In situations like that, homes with properly used kerosene heaters weren't just comfortable, they were safe. Current research around ice storms shows a surge in alternative heating use, and yes, kerosene heaters were doing heavy lifting. Now let me be clear, this isn't a buy and forget solution. You stock clear 1K kerosene, you store it safely, away from children and pets, you keep the heater at least 3 feet from anything that burns, you crack a window. According to the CPSC and USFA, space heaters, including kerosene, operating too close to bedding, curtains, or on unstable surfaces cause a disproportionate number of heating-related fires. Here's your real takeaway. In a blackout, when the house is getting colder by the hour, having a kerosene heater ready, safely used, and prepped can turn your worst night into a passable one. While others might scramble for blankets and wild stoves, you're seated in warmth, calmly sipping your coffee while the storm rages outside. That's the kind of quiet advantage preparation gives you. Use it right, stock the fuel, ensure ventilation, and sleep a lot easier knowing, even if the grid goes dark, you'll still have heat. 3. Wood stoves. All right, imagine this. The storm has knocked out power across your region. No furnace, no electric space heaters, just the chill of reality creeping into every corner of the room. If you live in a rural area, or even semi-rural, a wood stove becomes your powerhouse in moments like that. A well-installed wood stove doesn't just give off heat. It cooks dinner, dries your clothes after running the snowplow, and radiates warmth all through the night. You back up stacked dry firewood ahead of time, and you've essentially got an unlimited energy source. No grid, no problem. Picture it. While neighbors are cranking blankets tighter around them, you're sipping coffee, the stove humming beside you, steam rising from the kettle you've got simmering. That's the kind of comfort preparedness brings. Now, we must talk safety. The U.S. Fire Administration reports that heating equipment fire incidents remain serious. In 2021 alone, about 32,200 home heating fires were reported in the U.S., causing around 190 deaths and $442 million in property loss. And with wood stoves, the risks are real if you ignore maintenance and ventilation. The buildup of creosote in chimneys, poor installation, or using unseasoned wood can turn your safe haven into a hazard. Here's how you use it right. Pick an EPA-certified stove if you can, install it with proper chimney and floor clearance, stock up dry, seasoned wood, stored under cover for at least 6 months. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency reminds us that about 65% of wood stoves in the U.S. are older and inefficient, meaning they waste wood, throw off more smoke, and pose greater health/maintenance issues. But when you've done the work ahead, this setup pays off. You're not just surviving, you're living, you're not freezing in bed, you're warm, and you have the tools to boil water, or even sterilize supplies if things go full emergency mode. The pioneers survived brutal winters with nothing but wood. Why can't we learn from them? So if you've got access to wood, space for a proper stove, and the willingness to prep, this might be the smartest move you make. In a blackout where everything else fails, the wood stove stands, and you do too. 4. Pellet stoves. Okay, let's dive in, because when power's gone and temperatures are plunging, a gravity-fed pellet stove can be the difference between just getting by and staying cozy through the night. Most pellet stoves on the market require electricity to feed pellets, run fans, or activate blowers. But there are models designed to run purely on heat draft, no plug-in needed. This is big. Imagine you've chosen one of these gravity-fed models, you've bagged up enough pellets ahead of time, and you've shut off your home to isolate heat. You start it up, the fire kicks in, and you're sitting there with warmth radiating around you while the rest of the block is wrapped in blankets, watching their battery-powered devices go dark. That's your moment of advantage. Here's where the numbers help us believe it. According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, pellet stoves certified in the U.S. operate at efficiency levels around 70 to 83%. And further data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration show biomass fuels like wood pellets average about 80% efficiency in residential heating. What that means in real life? More of your fuel is converted to usable heat, less wasted. More warmth for your stockpile. Now, why gravity-fed matters? Because if the power fails, conventional pellet stoves that rely on motors and electronics may stop working. But a gravity-fed model uses a hopper set above the burn chamber and relies on natural draft to feed pellets. No electricity? No problem. While others are freezing, you're still burning. Of course, this isn't magic. You'll still need proper venting, a chimney or flue, and regular cleaning, because even the cleanest burning stove will suffer if ash builds up or fuel quality is poor. But when done right, this setup offers a longer burn time and less tending, which is exactly what you want during a blackout or long emergency. In short, if you're looking ahead, stocking pellets and choosing a no-plug model is a smart move. It's not just about surviving, it's about being comfortable while the rest of the world scrambles. 5. Charcoal and clay pot heaters. Okay, I'll be honest. This one falls into the clever backup category. If you're looking for a low-cost trick during a blackout or major emergency, the idea of using a few clay pots, a metal rack, and some charcoal to create a compact heater might seem a little DIY, but it works. You're essentially building a mini brazier inside a well-ventilated space. Here's how the scenario might play out. The power's out, you're in a small room, the temperature is dropping, you don't have a wood stove or kerosene heater ready. But you do have charcoal and a couple of clay pots in storage. You set them up on a metal rack, light the charcoal safely, place the clay pots over them. The heat radiates outward, warms the space, gives you a spot that's more comfortable than freezing in blankets. Simple, effective, cheap. People in Europe, especially during fuel shortages or cold snaps, have used similar setups for years. It's not glamorous, but it's practical for small spaces. That said, I cannot stress this enough. Ventilation is key. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention clearly warns, never burn charcoal indoors, because the carbon monoxide generated by charcoal can accumulate in enclosed spaces and be deadly. We're talking about more than theory. Each year, more than 400 Americans are treated in emergency departments for unintentional CO poisoning, not linked to fires. So if you try this method, do it with full awareness. Crack a window, ensure an airflow path, never leave it unattended, keep a working CO detector nearby. Why does it matter? Because in a blackout when other heating systems fail, or you've none of the big gear, this DIY solution gives you something, a warm zone, when the rest of the house is getting colder by the hour. It's not ideal for large spaces or long-term living, but for a short-term emergency, it could buy you time and comfort. Bottom line, if you're prepping on a budget and dealing with limited fuel options, this charcoal plus clay pot method could serve as Plan C. Just treat it with respect. Use good safety practices, monitor for CO, and make sure you're using it only in a space that allows air exchange. Because one mistake with indoor combustion, and you'll regret it. Mini hook. It might look simple, but in that dark, cold hour when the power's gone and the wind is howling, having any safe heat source is far better than none. 6. Candle heaters. All right, let's talk about something that sounds almost too simple. A few tea light candles paired with some clay pots, and how that tiny setup might just buy you hours of warmth in a blackout. Picture this. The power's out, it's well below freezing, and your house is cooling down fast. You don't have a large heater. Maybe your backup fuel is limited. But what you do have is a handful of candles and something to build a mini heat zone. Here's how it works. You put a metal rack or stand, place a couple of clay pots over lit tea lights, and create a small radiant heater. It won't replace a full heating system by any means, but in a small space, it can raise the temperature just enough to stay out of frost danger. In 1 hour of planning, you could create a warm bubble while the rest of the house is chilling down. That $5 setup could mean the difference between comfort and cold misery. Now, safety matters. According to the U.S. Fire Administration, heating devices remain the second leading cause of home fires in the U.S., and that includes candles in heating fire stats. The same source says, keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet from all heat sources, including candles, which means this trick is only valid if you're super cautious. Also, the Environmental Protection Agency reminds us that combustion, even of simple candles, produces carbon monoxide and fine particles, especially in poorly ventilated rooms. You must crack a window and keep airflow in mind. Let's ground this in real life. Imagine you're in a chilly cabin, night falling, blankets wrapped, worried about the kids' room getting cold. You set up 2 tea lights under a clay pot configuration in the corner, seal the room enough to hold warmth, crack the window, and boom. You've got a warm spot not relying on the grid. You're not luxurious, but you're safe. Meanwhile, the neighbors' blankets are getting thinner, their heaters off, and the cold's creeping in. In prepping terms, consider this your Plan C backup, not your main heat source, but one of the maybe free and fast tricks that can support you when the big gear is gone. Make sure you have enough tea lights, keep them away from children and pets, place them on a sturdy, non-combustible surface, and always monitor them. Because one unsecured open flame in an emergency can turn everything upside down. So yes, it sounds quirky, but when the grid fails and it's freezing, it's the little setup that might hold you over. 7. Butane or camping stoves. Let's be real, when the lights go out and the house temperature starts dropping, your primary focus is heat. You might already have a full-blown backup heater retrieved. But for many of you, the gear is stored or the fuel supply isn't quite there yet. That's when a compact butane or camping stove becomes your underrated hero. These devices are primarily for cooking, yes, but in a pinch, they can throw off enough heat to warm a small room. With one big caveat: ventilation is absolutely critical. Picture this: blackout in the middle of a winter storm. Heating system offline, blankets aren't cutting it, and the walls are starting to radiate cold. You've got a butane canister tucked away in the pantry, your camping stove on a sturdy surface, and you're using it to simmer a pot of hot water. It throws off heat, warms the zone, gives you a warm spot. Meanwhile, the rest of the house is getting colder by the minute. That's the scenario where this tool shines. Here's what the data tell us. According to research published in 2024, indoor use of fuel-burning stoves can generate dangerously high levels of carbon monoxide if ventilation is inadequate. The Consumer Product Safety Commission reported that in their 2020 review, an estimated approximately 225 unintentional, non-fire CO poisoning deaths per year in the U.S. involved consumer products like fuel-burning devices, many of which occurred in cold months when alternative heating was used indoors. What that means for you: if you use a camping stove for heating, you must treat it with the same respect you'd give a generator or kerosene heater. Here's the practical approach. Set the stove on a non-combustible surface. Place it near an open window or slight ventilation path. Don't leave it unattended, and avoid using it inside fully sealed rooms. Because even though the fuel is compact and easy to store, the risk of CO buildup is real. The fuel's compactness and portability are strong pluses. Those canisters store easily, take less space than a full-size heater, and when the storm passes, you still have it for your next camping or cookout adventure. In a blackout scenario, a butane or camping stove isn't your main heater, but it might be your plan B for that one room where you stay overnight, or your work zone while the rest of the house slowly cools down. It gives you flexibility, portability, and dual-purpose value: cooking and heating. If you stock extra canisters now and set one in a safe location, you could gain hours of warmth when others are scrambling. So don't underestimate the stove tucked in your gear. With proper ventilation and safety, it could stand between you and a cold, uncomfortable night. 8. Thermal mass. Let's pause for a minute and shift gears, because this next one isn't about generating heat. It's about holding on to it when everything around you is freezing. It's the kind of survival trick that doesn't rely on a big fancy stove or fuel canisters. It's raw physics and smart prep. Here's the scene. The power's out. It's late. The house is dropping in temperature slowly but surely. You don't have enough fuel for constant burners. The wind is creeping through drafts, and you know you're going to have to settle into one space and stay put. That's when thermal mass becomes your secret ally. What if you filled heavy metal containers or large water jugs with hot or boiling water ahead of time, wrapped them in towels or blankets, and placed them under your blankets or next to your feet? Those jugs become mini heat batteries. They'll radiate warmth for hours. Why this works? According to building science, materials like water or dense masonry have high volumetric heat capacity, meaning they can absorb, store, and slowly release a lot of heat. For example, one guide says, water stores about twice the heat of concrete by volume. So when you fill a jug with hot water and wrap it, you're tapping into that thermal mass effect. You're buying time, warmth, comfort. It's very human. Imagine you and your partner in one room, blankets piled up, the rest of the house growing cold. But you've got these warm jugs at your sides, your feet warm. You're able to sleep, you're able to remain calm instead of shivering. While others are migrating from room to room, lighting candles and shaking out the cold, you've created a zone of relative warmth. But, and this is important, it's not a substitute for a real heating system. It won't heat a large space. It won't last days as the sole means of warming your home. And you'll still need to address insulation, ceiling drafts, and limiting heat loss. Building science also reminds us that thermal mass only works if the space is reasonably insulated and the mass is exposed to the room air, not buried under carpet or behind insulation. In prepping terms, this might be your Plan C or Plan D trick, but it's cheap, low-tech, and uses materials many homes already have. And when the wind is howling outside and the power is out, those little sources of stored warmth make a big difference. So grab some heavy containers, Fill them before the storm, wrap them up, stash them near your bed or warm zone, because when everything else fails, thermal mass can give you those extra hours you desperately need. 9. Oil-filled radiators. Let's talk about a smart middle ground between full-blown wood stoves and pocket trick heaters, the humble oil-filled radiator. Normally, it's an electric heater, but in an emergency where you've got a small solar setup or battery backup, it becomes a serious asset. Picture this. The grid goes down, the house cooling fast, and you flip on a compact oil-filled radiator powered by a battery inverter or solar array. It's safe, silent, and because the oil in the fins retains warmth even after the unit stops drawing full power, it's efficient for a backup heat zone. Now, here's why it matters. Oil-filled radiators are known for heat retention. One technical guide notes that although they initially draw power like any electric heater, the internal thermal fluid holds heat long after the element shuts off, meaning less cycling, more steady warmth. For prepping people, that's gold. Instead of trying to run a 1500-watt heater on a solar inverter that's already maxed out, you run a 600 to 800-watt oil-filled unit, heat your room, then let it coast. But don't think it's plug and play without thought. According to energy efficiency reviews, the key is once the unit warms up, it uses less electricity to maintain comfort. What this means for you: pair your radiator with a modest solar panel plus battery system, position it in your warm zone room, crank it up until your space is comfortable, then flip it into maintenance mode. While the rest of the house's heating system is off, you've got a safe, warm spot. Here's a scenario. Blackout hits that 2025 winter storm. Other rooms freeze. But your living room setup, insulated, closed doors, an oil radiator powered by your inverter and panels, stays at maybe 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Quiet, comfortable, and since the unit doesn't blow hot, dry air, it keeps humidity better, which means your goosebumps and dry throat odds go way down. One caution: any electric heater still demands power. The blog from a solar generator company says you need enough inverter capacity and battery watt hours to run space heating appliances. So your job is to size your system correctly. Cross-check the radiator wattage, your battery size, expected runtime. Without that, it's a risk. Bottom line, if you have limited renewable backup, say solar panels, a good battery, an inverter, an oil-filled radiator is a solid prep move. It gives you real comfort and endurance during a blackout, especially when used in a small, insulated zone. Use it right, and when the noise dies and the wind howls, you'll be the one sitting steady and warm while others shiver. 10. Portable gas fireplaces. All right, picture this. The power is out, the wind is howling, and the house feels like a freezer. Now imagine you have a compact, portable gas fireplace quietly glowing in your living room, giving off real warmth while the rest of the neighborhood is wrapped in blankets and worry. If you have access to natural gas or propane, a ventless or portable gas fireplace might just be one of the smartest backup heat sources in your prep kit. Here's why it works. These units are designed for situations just like this: emergencies, power outages, quick warmth zones. They require minimal setup compared to full wood stoves or large heating systems. You set one up, ensure the fuel line is ready, press a switch or light it, and suddenly you've got flame, warmth, and comfort when everything else is dark and silent. The cozy glow isn't just ambiance. It's a morale booster when nerves and temperature are both falling. But, and this is critical, safety matters, especially with ventless models, because they burn in the same air you breathe. According to the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, ventless fireplaces must only be used for limited time periods and require proper fresh air exchange, oxygen depletion sensors, and a working carbon monoxide detector. The reality? The U.S. Fire Administration reports that heating equipment causes around 32,200 home heating fires each year, resulting in about 190 deaths and hefty property losses. So a gas fireplace isn't a set and forget heat source. It's a powerful tool when used carefully. Here's how to apply it. Pre-plan where you'll place the fireplace. Pick the room that will serve as your warm zone. Make sure you have enough fuel, propane or natural gas line ready. Ensure the unit meets local code. Give yourself a ventilation plan. Crack a window, keep CO detectors active. Schedule breaks to let fresh air in. While others are huddling under blankets, you're sitting in reasonably comfortable warmth. In a blackout, when you need more than just a heater, When you need comfort, stability, and safety, a portable gas fireplace can be a game changer. It's not for every home, but if you've got the fuel access and space, it might be one of the smartest prep moves you make. 11. Alcohol heaters. Let's dive into something surprisingly effective, and yes, a little unconventional. When everything goes dark, you don't always have the luxury of a full heater setup. That's where a simple alcohol heater can become your quiet ally. We're talking rubbing alcohol plus a metal container equals a DIY, small space heater that burns clean, stores easily, and can double as a cooking source. It's not fancy, but when the grid fails, survival isn't about fancy. It's about function. Here's the scene. You've prepped, the blackout hits, and despite your best setups, the main heater can't keep up. You retreat to a smaller, sealed room, and you light a safe little alcohol heater. It kicks off heat, you've got a rolling pot on top for hot tea. Maybe you're boiling water for hygiene. While the rest of the house is inching toward freezing, you're warm, you're able to stay alert instead of shivering. But, and this is critical, you must treat it like any fuel-burning device. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention warns that carbon monoxide is a silent killer when fuel-burning devices are used in poorly ventilated spaces. In fact, unintentional CO exposure sends more than 100,000 Americans to emergency departments each year, with over 400 deaths annually. That means, while you're thinking cheap heater, you also need to think airflow, monitoring, CO detector. Alcohol burns cleaner than many heavier fuels, which is a plus for indoor use. But cleaner does not mean safe without precautions. Place the container on a stable, non-combustible surface. Keep it away from fabrics and curtains. Maintain ventilation, and have a CO alarm nearby. If you've got children or pets, keep them away while it's burning. Here's a real-life way to imagine it. Midwinter blackout, power down for hours, house dropping into the 40s. You've got one small bedroom sealed off, one sweater layer extra, and a DIY alcohol heater under a thick blanket fort. You're sipping something hot, you're alert, you're able to sleep reasonably instead of staying up shivering. That's prep working. In prepping terms, this is your ultra-lightweight backup. It won't replace your main heater, it won't cover the whole house, but it will create a warm zone when others are freezing. Just remember, fuel plus flame plus enclosed space equals risk, unless you add ventilation, plus monitoring, plus awareness. If you set it up, use it wisely, and you could turn a cold, chaotic night into a manageable one. 12. Body heat and insulation. All right, let's bring it back to something basic but powerful. Your own body heat. When things go dark, the grid fails, and your home starts turning into a cold shell, your first and best defense may not be a fancy heater. It may simply be layering up, sealing off a room, and using the warmth already inside you to hold off the cold. Picture this. The power's out, winds gusting through cracks, and the thermostat is falling by the hour. You gather everyone into one room, bring pets in close, close the door, hang heavy blankets over it, cover the windows, throw in an extra layer of insulation over the doorframe, and you all snuggle together. The heat your bodies generate, multiplied, starts to warm the space. While the rest of the house cools toward freezing, you're tucking in and holding on. Insulation and layering matter. According to the advice from survival outlets, building a small warm zone by sealing off one room and using blankets to trap heat is one of the most effective steps when the heat's gone. And even general winter warmth guides recommend layering clothing, insulating windows, and trapping body heat close to your core. So here's how you make it happen. Pick the smallest room with the fewest exterior walls. Hang heavy blankets or quilts over doors and windows to reduce heat loss. Everyone moves into that room, pets too. Keep a hot drink going, wear warm hats and socks, layer up. Close vents to unused rooms. The goal, minimize the volume you need to heat and maximize the heat your bodies are giving off. Sometimes, survival isn't about gear, it's about instinct. When the heater's silent and the night is long, this warm zone strategy can buy you hours of comfort that many won't have. Those who spread out, use big rooms, stay in low insulation zones, those are often the ones who end up shivering or worse. But you're together, insulated, and generating warmth naturally. Don't screw around thinking it's not enough. It is. Stack blankets, block drafts, stay in one room, and let your body heat do the work. Because when the storm hits, the best heater might just be you. If you found this helpful, Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss life-saving prepping tips. Drop a comment below. Which of these heating solutions would you use first in a blackout? And don't forget to share this video with friends and family to keep them safe and warm too.